Hey, it's Kath from Simple Reflect on Early Years Programming Mastermind, and I'm on a mission to help early childhood educators shine. Now, as you come on, say hi, especially if you're here in the replay. You know I love to know who's here and say hi. I'm going to try and not to sniffle all the way through this. Those of you that were here on my podcast yesterday know that I've had a little bit of a head cold, and it's just lingering around for a bit too long. Let me find the live stream on my page just so I can see any comments. I have a great message for you today that I really wanted to share. And it came, like a lot of my messages do, and it just sort of hits me when I hang up from a one-on-one client or when I'm working with someone different. And I like to sit for just a bit after we have finished our call and see what comes up and see what messages come through and see what I need to share with others that come through from working with different educators. And let me just find this. It's going to go on a walk, but I thought I'll sit here. That way I can actually see comments. Ooh. Oh, it's being a bit slow. Oh, there it is. Found it. Okay, and it's the title above. If you don't step up, they miss out. And I was talking with a beautiful, beautiful educator, and she was talking to me about some of her struggles and some of the things that she wants to wait. She wants to wait to work with the children. She wants to wait until she has someone more experienced to work with her. She wants to wait until she is feeling more comfortable with the children that's in her room. She wants to wait until she feels more confident about the women that she's working with. And what she wants to wait for is before she starts connecting with them and before she starts programming and before she starts doing follow-ups. And I was trying to work through with her that you can't just wait. You can't just hang around for 5. It doesn't work like that. The children need you as a valuable, thoughtful, caring, kind, predictable, consistent educator now. They need us. They need us now. They don't need us in a month's time when we're feeling more comfortable. They don't need us in, 3 months' time when we are more confident. They don't need us in, 12 months' time when we've got all our stuff together. They need us now. They really do. And I just found this quite peculiar, but I also found it understandable. I did. I really, really did. Because as normal human beings, but also as women that put pressure on ourselves to do everything right. We want what we do with our precious children to be right. We don't want to stuff up. We don't want to make mistakes. We don't want to hurt people's feelings. We want to guide and encourage them in a way that is 100% correct. And we'll never, ever, ever, ever have it 100% correct. We just won't. And it doesn't matter what we're looking at, whether we're looking at programming or follow-ups or children's interests or developmental needs. We won't always get it 100% right. But we can learn. We can take steps to work with others and chat with others about what's working. We can talk to others about different things that might work in our room or in our home if we're family daycare or if we're centre-based. we can really try and move forward from where we are now. And I just thought this was a really interesting concept to chat about. You know, this is one of those real moments that just sort of hit me, and I was like, oh, where can I go with this? Because this is really important. This is really valuable for the children that we care for. We can't just sit around for months or terms or years while we get our crap together. We just can't. Our children need us now. And as you know, sometimes I look at the similarities and the differences between family daycare educators and room educators or centre-based educators. And I often find, you know, there are so many similarities and so many more similarities, I think, than educators often want to admit. But there's also so many differences. And one difference is very much that our children, family daycare educated children, come in and they'll often stay for 2 or 3 years. Whereas I think a lot more centre-based care, that you only have that child for 1 year and then they move into another room. Sometimes it's only 6 months that they're in a room. So it's super, super important, no matter how long you have that child for, to actually look at the week ahead and look at what you can offer them. What is meaningful for you to offer them? How can you give them value around their learning and around their confidence and around what they need to develop in a really positive, connected way? What can you offer them this week that will move them forward? So in my blog, I wrote about breathing. I wrote about stopping and breathing and just taking a breath around how we can move forward with ourselves as educators and how we can move forward with the children in our care. And sometimes we need to look at that as two really different things. We need to look at how we can build our own confidence, how we can build our own competency when it comes to guiding our children and when it comes to building a valuable program. But we also need to look at how we can encourage and guide and put together a program that is really going to be meaningful for our children. So this is something that I really wanted you to think about. And I've got some questions to ask you. And one of those questions, I've heard quite a bit over the last couple of weeks. Probably over the last couple of months, actually, but a couple of times over the last couple of weeks as well. And the question is that I really want you to think about is, how experienced is experienced enough to make a difference? So I often hear this from educators, that they don't feel experienced enough. And I just don't know how much enough is. It's such it's such a statement that can't be clarified. It really is. It needs to be felt within. And to say that you're going to wait a month till you feel confident enough or that you feel experienced enough, I just think it's doing our children a disservice. Our children need us now. We can't get today back. The children can't get today back. They're only so young for such a small amount of time. I really want you to have a think about how experienced is experienced enough, because I think where you are at right now, you can give your children value. I have 3 more questions for you. And the second question is, how do you become confident around children of any age if you're not going to spend time with them? So to me, the way to become experienced, to become confident, to really love being around the children is be around the children. Get down on their level. talk to them, have those conversations, encourage them with things to be active in experiences that you know they will like and that you have set up for them to be involved with. So, one of the third question that I have is, can you guide and support others by being a shining example? And one chat I've had this week is she doesn't want to work with others and she doesn't want to guide others. And if you're in a centre, that's part of being in a centre, to actually work with other educators for the good of the children in your care. And you don't want to be a room leader, or you don't want to be there to guide others, but can you be a shining example? Can you actually be engaged with the children, really positive around the children? Have some of those super discussions that, you can walk away at the end of the day and know that you have really given your all today, and that the children that go home, they go home after having a really beautiful day that you have helped create. And my fourth question for you is, if you're taking clear notes and following the children's interests, knowing their strength, and have a clear programming cycle, can you keep going and caring for the children even if you don't get your programming time? And I've found that this is one that's also coming up quite a bit this month, about as the year is coming to an end and everyone is super busy. Educators, especially in a room, are in centre-based care, are missing their programming time, which is unfortunate and which can be super frustrating. But work out how you can keep going with a meaningful program even if you are missing your programming time. And I do speak to family daycare educators about carrying their program around with them. Move it around with you so that if something happens, you can jot it down. You don't actually need to set time aside to do that. Now, I know that some centres really don't like you having your programming in the room. They like you to go out and do that. But if they're not giving you the time, then you need to work out a compromise. And how can you still take notes? Is it with sticky notes? Is it just learning to take shorter, still meaningful notes, but just on a small sticky note that you can have a pen and the notes in your pocket? Work out how you can do that. Now, Jack's making me a little bit nervous because I disrupted about a foot long lizard before I sat down here in the garden. I was like, no, I shoot him away, and he was right, but he's now growling at something just down near my feet. So no lizards for me today. I'm hoping very much that he's just growling at the smell. One would hope. So they're four really great questions around being an educator, around knowing what matters for you, and around moving you forward. And I am going to ask you that question again. If you don't step up, they miss out. So can you take that on board? Next time you're thinking about questioning yourself or giving yourself a hard time, or, that voice in your head that just won't stop when it says, I'm not good enough for this, or I don't want to do that, have a think about the children in your care, and have a think about how you can step up for them, how you are needed as a conscientious, engaged, energized educator. You are needed for the children in your care. So I hope that rings true for you, that it really gives you something to think about. It really, sometimes we get a little bit bogged down and we're not quite sure how to pull ourselves out into, he's still digging, how we can pull ourselves out of the doldrums and get back into being motivated. And especially at this time of the year, the children are cranky. They're ready for a break. And especially the school children, they're so ready for a break, getting this close to term. They really do want to, they're ready for the break. And I think our littlies are a bit the same. I do. I think our littlies are ready for a break, and they're ready for Christmas, and they're ready for families to have time off and whatnot. And I think that at that time when our children are a little bit cross and cranky and tired and ready for that break, that we're ready for that break too as educators. And sometimes it does just take put on a smile and do what you need to do for the children in our care. Now, let me share with you what we've got going on. Have you got any questions around that? I really do love to talk about these mindset matters, I suppose they are, when we really do need to look at how we're thinking about things and what thoughts we have going on in our heads that change how we are as educators. I love critical reflection. I really do think it's an important part of being an educator. But to critically reflect, sometimes we need to question and have new questions that are asked to us for us to dig into and look at where we're coming from around being educators and being mindful and what are we saying to ourselves when we get to the end of the day and we're tired and we're a little bit cranky and the day may not have gone how we want it to go. What are we telling ourselves? And sometimes if we haven't worked through questions like these, then we don't have the mindset to actually reassure ourselves that we are doing what we need to do to be valuable educators for the children that we care for. So let me tell you what we have going on this week. On Friday we had our Shine as an Educator podcast, of course, and where we look at critical reflection. And we're up to episode 92, so we've actually focused on 92 different topics for critical reflection. And if you are joining us on Fridays for that, then I'd love to know how it's going for you. How is being asked a critical reflection question every week, how is it moving you forward as an educator, or how is it changing your thinking when you have difficult days? The other thing that we are starting this week, and it starts tomorrow, so Monday evening at 8:30 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. That's right, how we say it. Jack, you're making me nervous, bud. You're going to have to stop it. Look, come over here and sit. Can you see Jack? There's Jack. He's just digging just there at my feet at a lizard that I disturbed earlier. So I'm thinking I really don't want a lizard running up my trouser legs. So what we've got going on this week is a fabulous course all around connecting with our community and all around bringing our community in. And I really wanted to focus on this because a lot of centre educators say that they are not able to take their children on excursions, and so they can't really be out and about in the community. And my way of thinking is that if you can't be out and about in your community, then you really want to bring the community in. And so this is a 3-part course. It starts Monday, just with a little pre-work. Our main session is on Tuesday night at 8:30, where we will do an hour of training around bringing the community in, around forming those important connections that our children need, around forming that real sense of belonging that the children need for their confidence and for growing and moving forward themselves. So if you would like to join us for that, The following week we will then have our third session, and that will also be on Monday night, and that will be around programming and planning for how you are going to bring those connections in. What can you actually do in your program? So my courses are not pie in the sky, these would be fabulous things if we could do this. It is what you can do now. It's what you really can offer your children within the next week, within the next month. That's realistic around budget, realistic around resources, realistic about the time that we have as educators, because we don't have unlimited amount of time. We have short snippets of time that we need to use wisely to the best of our abilities. And so that's what we've got going on this week. It is our next course in the Earliest Programming Mastermind. And if you would like to join us, I will pop the link, more to the point, I'll pop the link in the comments below. But do you have any questions? If you have any questions around what I'm offering or the mastermind, or I'm doing quite a lot of one-on-one sessions at the moment with educators. If you have any questions for me around those, then be sure to PM me or be sure to pop them in the comments. So I would love to know what you're doing around connection with your community already. What is something that you're already offering your children and that you embed in your program so that building that connection with your community is not just something you do, once or twice a year. It's something that you do on a weekly basis. You add it to your program. It's an embedded part of your program that you make sure you do every week. I would love to know if that's something you do. Do you just do it once or twice a year? Or do you actually take steps to make sure that it is being embedded in your programming? That is what I would love for you to pop down below. Check out the link as well to the new Mastermind course. And any comments as well. I will come back and check the comments too. So have a beautiful week and remember to shine. Bye guys.